Welcome to Pub Talk, the unofficial official craft beer podcast of Oklahoma, where we're all about the three B's, beer buddies, and bullshit. I'm Michael, and with me as always is a guy who couldn't wait to see the tap room for Edmond's first brewery, Jeremy.
There you go.
On today's show, we're back at it again with another Spotlight episode, this time with the great folks at Frenzy Brewing in Edmond, Oklahoma. If you like what you hear today, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you're listening right now, and show us some love on social media at Pub Talk Podcast. All right, let's get into it. So first off, thank you for having us out today.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down.
I'd like to start each show with just some quick introductions. Let us know who you are and what you do here.
All right, my name is Matt Connor. I am co-owner and head brewer at Frenzy Brewing.
I am Beth Connor, co-owner and head brewer wrangler at Frenzy Brewing.
And I'm Jeremy. I'm Jeremy Estle. I'm co-owner of Frenzy Brewing as well, and I'm one of the guys being wrangled.
Right on. Well, I guess before we get too far into it, I just want to go ahead and talk about the fact that tomorrow's the start of grand opening week. So what do we got in store for that?
Well, I mean, just opening the doors, finally officially being open with, full staff, no special events, no closed door private, events that we've been doing. None of that stuff's going on anymore. We were thinking about doing all kinds of crazy stuff every day during the grand opening, but we decided just to kind of keep it simple. So we're going to start out, just regular hours and kind of see what happens. We're excited.
We do have our ribbon cutting at 1 o'clock.
That's true. We do have a ribbon cutting tomorrow
with the
at 1.
Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
So if you talk to us a little bit about the history of Frenzy and how we got to where we are today.
Well, I mean, it's kind of, there's two stories. I'll tell our side of it. My dad homebrewed way back in the day, in the late 80s, early 90s, when we lived out in Northern California. And I wasn't even 21 at the time. I never got to try the beer. I always thought it was kind of interesting that he was brewing beer. It just seemed like an odd thing to me. At the time, it just didn't make sense. But, he was drinking Sierra Nevada Pale Ale back then. So, craft beer has been a part of our family for a long, long time, even before I could drink, or legally drink, I should say. So we moved here. Oklahoma until the last 10 or 15 years was really kind of a wasteland beer-wise. And so, he quit brewing. He was too busy with work, and I just was living my life. And he retired about 2010. And I thought, what better way to kind of spend time with him than to start brewing? A friend of mine was home brewing at the time, and so I said, hey, Dad, let's brew. And we started brewing in his kitchen until we had a boil over, and then my mom banished us to the garage. So, after that, I got real serious about it, and he stepped back. Beth kind of stepped in, and she started brewing with me, and then really coming up with some great ideas for beer names and beer styles. And we both started entering beers and competitions. Pretty quickly won a lot of medals. There's, not sure everyone knows this, but there's actually sanctioned beer competitions for home brewing. And there's a whole beer certification program for judging, and it's all blind judged. And we sent beers off to competitions throughout the country. And I think we entered 20 or 30 competitions, and we medaled in, I think, all but 2. So we had a lot of success. Our homebrew club was instrumental in helping us get make the beer better. We were part of the Red Earth Brewers. They're a big homebrew club here in Oklahoma City, over 100 members. And just from the club and just from learning on my own, and we just were able to kind of get the process better. And we started thinking, well, laws are changing. Why would we not open a brewery? I mean, who else is going to do it other than brewers? It's not the kind of business where somebody who doesn't know how to brew beer just walks in the door and says, I'm opening a brewery. Yeah. It's kind of like restaurants. I kind of liken it to that. If you don't know how to make food, you're not going to be successful opening a restaurant. So anyway, we kind of came up with a brand with Frenzy, which is, I always get asked where that comes from. And the reason Beth says she's the head brewer wrangler is because I tend to get a little bit worked up about almost every single thing, no matter what it is. And so because of that, I came up with the name, actually, and a friend of ours, John Knight from Mint Apparel, the guy that did our logo and all of our merch and stuff, he's awesome. I threw the name at him on a text, and he said, "Oh, that sounds good." And then about 2 weeks later, I got a call from him, and he said, so do you want me to make the logo? And I said, for what? He said, for Frenzy Brewing Company. I was like, oh, is that what we're going to go with? And so it just kind of happened. I mean, we spent, I remember we took a trip down to, where was that? Down to the camp where Paige went, our daughter.
Quartz Mountain.
Quartz Mountain. We were driving out of Quartz Mountain. We spent the whole drive just running through beer names, calling John. What do you think about this? And it just couldn't. And it's like anything else. It just sometimes happens organically, and we were trying too hard, I think, is what it was. But once we got the brand, we built that, and we were going to festivals, and people thought, "Oh, this is a brewery." Like they kept asking us, "Where are you located?" I got tired of hearing that question, actually. It's like, well, we brew out of a garage. And they were like, whoa. So, we ended up getting a tent. And we had a table cover, the whole thing. Professional-looking signage. We had shirts. We really looked like we knew what we were doing. So, anyway, after a period of time, we did a business plan. And then Beth and I just realized that we probably were going to kill each other if we didn't find someone else to bring in. And so, Jeremy and I talked at one point about potential investment in Frenzy, and ended up turning into a partnership. So, Beth and I and Jeremy and his wife Emily, and now it's become, Jeremy's kids are working here, my nephews are working here. It's really, truly a family business. So, sorry, I rambled on a little on that, but I'll let Jeremy kind of tell his story in about 3 sentences.
Yeah.
That's what he does. I'm the talker of the group.
Really, I started off at home brewing through a friend of mine whose dad taught us how to home brew, and this was back in 1993, just when only place you could find anything was up in Tulsa at High Gravity. And he said if we learned how to brew, we'd have to drink everything that we made. And starting off, we made some pretty bad beer for a long time. Didn't have any temperature control, anything like that. Any of the necessaries. All you had was a pot, hopped extract, and dried yeast. And you made beer. And it was beer at the end of the day, just by the most technical sense. But it kept us from shoulder tapping, and that was kind of what we were trying to get away from. And as the years went by, as information became more readily available, beer got better and better, and we enjoyed being able to make good beer that our friends didn't give us a hard time for. And eventually it got to a point where the laws needed to change. I kind of sat and watched and felt that if something like 424 were to come about and pass, that you could have a business model that would make some money in this type of industry here in Oklahoma. Lo and behold, I got tied in with some guys up in Tulsa. It was Kevin Douglas Hall had approached me about local. That was actually a working title for the group. Ended up sticking. And 424 came about, and 383 came about, and it completely revamped the entire alcohol laws here in the state, as we all know. And that 424 passing put us in a position that you could have a brewery in Oklahoma and actually make it a profitable business, or you could thrive. And I remember at one point I had a conversation with Senator Bice and said, if 424 happens and 383 happens, and what ended up being State Question 792, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. And it happened. Had some friends that had approached me about starting a brewery, and we were looking at going into the Brewers Union. And in that meantime, that's where Matt and I really kind of started kicking off our conversation about me becoming an investor. We sat down up the street at the Patriarch one night and talked about that investor opportunity, and it started evolving pretty quickly into a partnership conversation. And we kind of felt each other out for a few months and realized that we had complementary skill sets and decided to go for it. And what you're sitting in right now is the culmination of almost 2 years worth of work, putting out some pretty good beer in our opinion, and having a lot of fun, working our tails off. And now we got our own place. It's getting ready to open tomorrow, and that reality is literally setting in right now as I'm sitting here. It's like, man, we've gotten to this point. It's wild. It's a little overwhelming, quite honestly. But yeah, that's kind of my roots from 1993 all the way up to right now. Is is exactly that. So yeah, pretty exciting to see the culmination of all of it come together and kick this thing off tomorrow. And I think we're doing it in a pretty cool fashion with having a ribbon cutting with the city tomorrow, and then just throw open the doors and see what the hell happens. So.
Well, and
awesome.
one of the things that we haven't really talked about is like the beer that we brew. I mean, it's a blend of all three of our beer ideas. So, Beth, Pink Thing. Well, obviously we used to have Vampire Glitter. Vampire Glitter was an IPA that we brewed that was very, very popular and did really well in competitions. We won a Best of Show with that out in Arkansas. And anyway, then, Beth came up with the whole Pink Thing, which you guys are drinking right now, and that's a cherry milkshake IPA. We've got the Unspeakable Things, which was the reason why Pink Thing exists. That's the only reason I brewed that beer. I didn't want to. I was really opposed to New England IPAs at the time because I'm more of a traditional brewer. But, Jeremy's brought the wit beer that we're getting ready to brew, and then an ESB. He's got, and the peach, of course. Our peach beer, Quit Your Peachin', which is actually one of our 3 canned beers, was one of his homebrew recipes that used to be called Float Trip. That we had to change the name because that's already been trademarked. Oh. So if we were going to put it out in cans, we obviously don't want to have trademark infringement. But anyway, so, this has become more than just a partnership. I mean, it's a full collaboration. I mean, it's not just one of us kind of leading the way on the beer. Everyone involved is, and then our customers, of course, are going to drive what we brew. So we do test batches and all that. Anyway, we've had some really good feedback on some of the small batch beers we've already brewed. And anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there about, it's more than just a partnership. I mean, it really is truly like we're all in this together. So
we're all in this together,
whether we like it or not.
Sink or swim.
So, keeping with the beer theme, we can see behind us here we've got 3 canned beers right now. Let's talk a little bit about those and what else people can find when they come in the tap room.
Yeah, so we've got our flagship beer, which is our Belgian Blonde. It's called Yeah, 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 because I'm a blonde, which nobody really gets that reference. It's actually from a 80s movie called Earth Girls Are Easy, and there's a song by a woman named Julie Brown. It was called Because I'm a Blonde, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. Anyway, that one, I'm still amazed that name is stuck. I can't believe it's on cans and out in the marketplace. I think it's super cool because when we named it, actually Beth that came up with it. I mean, it was hilarious. We laughed and laughed and laughed when she came up with that. Stuck with it and used it when we homebrewed, used it in competitions, and it's like at this point that's what it is. So, and that'll never there won't be any worry about anybody else naming a beer that. So that's the hard part now is finding beer names that nobody else is using. Yeah. I mean, you'd be shocked at some of the names out there. You're like, oh, there's no way someone's using this name, and you search it, it's out there. So anyway, our second beer is that we've had because we were contract brewing at Angry Scotsman. I'll back up a bit. We started over a year ago, Angry Scotsman contract brewing. Great opportunity to get beer out in the market. The 2 beers we were brewing were the Blonde, the Yeah, 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 and then Unspeakable Things, which is our New England IPA. So those are obviously the 2 we were going to keep. When we got here, we decided to add 1 more just to have a 3rd beer for a lot of reasons, but the biggest one is probably just logistics of getting canned products canned. We didn't want to try to overextend ourselves too quickly, so we've added a peach beer, peach wheat. It's an American wheat with peach added, and it's called Quit Your Peachin', which was Jeremy's name.
Derivative of what you hear me saying all the time.
Yeah, he's a fan of the term "quit your bitching." So when he sent me that, I don't know if I told you when you sent me that text, I burst out laughing. I thought, what a great name. So that's again one of those that I can't believe we've got that out in the market with that name, but it's great. I mean, so there's nothing wrong with the name. It's like unique. So
the folks at Cola loved it. They had a good chuckle out of that. Yeah. So
didn't they call and ask you?
They wanted. They asked a little bit more about the name and told them, and they were really cool about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool name. I thought that was kind of funny. A government agency showed some personality like that in approving that label.
Well, it's been really well received in the tap room. People take a sample of it, and then they usually walk out the door with a 4-pack. Because I tell them, I said, this is the perfect lawn mowing or sitting by the lake beer
Yeah.
because it's not as heavy as an IPA, and it's refreshing, and you can drink them all day.
Yeah, it doesn't have that hot bitterness. It's not heavy like a stout, with the malt. Super crisp, easy drinking, and I don't like wheat beers particularly. Just the underlying flavor you get from the wheat. I'm not a fan. Never have been, but I would drink the Quick Peach. I mean, just that peach added to it gives it another facet that kind of covers up that wheat flavor. I'll be honest. For me, it just kind of.
You don't like that wheat tangy.
I don't. I just don't. It's it's like everything else. You don't like everything you make. Sometimes, I mean, we make beers because we either think they're cool, or we like the way they taste, or we want something that customers are going to enjoy. And we knew there was one of the beers we brewed on the small batch. It was the very first one actually. We called it Cream Weaver. I don't know if that's just kind of a working title. If we can that, we'll name it something else. But it's a cream ale, which a lot of people don't understand what a cream ale is. Cream ale is basically an ale version of a light lager. And so we made that so we'd have some kind of a beer that somebody comes in and says, I like Budweiser, what do you have? Or I like Coors Light, what do you have? Yeah. And here's the cream beer. And actually, we've almost gone through a barrel of that, which is 31 gallons, and we aren't even open yet. Just in tap room, we did soft openings and special events. We only have like one keg of that left. It's crazy. So we have to brew that again, obviously.
Yeah.
Got to brew what sells. I mean, this is a business after all.
Yeah.
So I've got to ask, how has it been planning the opening of the brewery in the middle of this pandemic?
Super easy.
Right.
Best time to open business. No. It was a blessing and it was a curse all at the same time. We had some construction shortfalls that needed to play catch up with, and it gave us some time to do that. But you get to a point where you need to start generating some revenue to stay afloat. You don't want to disintegrate on the launch pad, and it was stressful. It was real stressful knowing that you had scheduled yourself to get open at X amount of time, and then all of a sudden the entire world literally is just shut down, and you can't conduct business in the manner that you had planned for. Best laid plans just got shot to crap pretty quick. It was pretty scary, but luckily there was some opportunities with the SBA, and those came through and really just gave us the opportunity to focus, number one, on finishing the construction, two, shifting production over here, and then when it was the right time to start generating revenue again in a very controlled manner, then we had the opportunity to do so. So, there was, your business plan gets shot to crap, and your whole timeline gets shot to crap, but at the same time, you got to do the right thing. We got to take care of what needed to be taken care of, and that was, safety and health first, and then come back in later and come off the pause button, really, and then pick up where you left off. So it was an interesting time. It was really very interesting. And now I think literally we come out of the third phase of reopening tomorrow, and it was just by pure chance that we're opening the doors tomorrow. We didn't look at it in that way. We really thought, okay, we're going to stay a phase behind, or so. It just had a little bit more of a methodical thought to it, and we're still going to do some of that. Even though we're not going to be required to, we still safety and social distancing. And I know we were talking beforehand. We're still spreading tables out. We're still going to treat it like we're essentially in phase 2 for a while. So it gives us an opportunity to be in such a controlled environment in the way that we open up that, getting overwhelmed with a tremendous amount of traffic, I think we have the ability to control that. So
yeah, that's why we didn't do a grand opening celebration.
Yeah.
We're doing a grand opening week. We knew that if we, next Saturday, we said, okay, this is our grand opening celebration, big party, we'd have hundreds and hundreds of people packed in this place. And we thought that was probably irresponsible under the circumstances. I mean, if it organically happens, we'll do the best we can to kind of make sure that we're, doing the right things. But, we're very diligent about wiping down surfaces with bleach, with a bleach solution. When people leave a table, everything gets wiped down from the chairs to the table. And we've got sanitizer everywhere. So we're very conscious of it. I mean, the thing that's interesting is we're finding that people that are coming out and have walked in during our soft openings, nobody really seems too concerned, which is a little bit scary. But, I mean, we haven't really seen huge spikes here. I mean, I know there's been some rallies and things, protests and things like that in the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure that we've seen spikes in numbers on those big group events. So, man, hopefully we're through the worst of it here in Oklahoma, and we're going to monitor things as they progress. If there's spikes, if there's a spike later in the year, like a lot of people think there might be, we'll be prepared for that. Yeah. So, we actually were supposed to get more furniture. We're kind of holding off on that, just to make sure we don't pack this place too full of seating areas, which is going to make it look a little bland for a little while, I think, furniture-wise. But I'd rather be safe than sorry on that. So,
yeah, it's added another facet for sure of consideration in opening a tap room that we didn't have to think about in December or January. It was just something else that we've had to add in and take into consideration when getting this place open.
Yeah. Well, we did a little tour before we started the podcast, and there's some cool historical photos of the building that we're in along the back wall there. Can we talk a little bit about the history of this building?
Absolutely. So I've actually become a little bit of a historian now in downtown Edmond, and I'm starting to meet people that know a whole lot more about it than me and kind of pick their brain about things. And we're learning more about this building as we go. But, it was built, they actually don't know exactly when it was built. There's like official records that have it. But somewhere between 17 and 1918, or maybe 19 was when it was built. It was originally built by a gentleman named, I don't remember his first name, maybe an Edward, but it's E.A. Bender. So it's the E.A. Bender building. There's a plaque out on the front of the building, like they used to do back in the day, where they put the person who built the building's name on the front. And he built it, actually, I think his son's name might have been Raymond, and he built it so his son could have an automotive shop. And so this was originally where cars were worked on. And some of the photographs in the hall actually show the building with the big doors in front opened up with cars sitting inside. And then it was a Buick dealership and a shop and a gas station, and they sold tractors and all kinds of other things. After that, it was the Edmond Publishing Company, and then it got split into two actual addresses. So you had two different businesses. Edmond Publishing Company was in here for the better part of, I think, a decade or two. There was some other little things in here. I know there was Ann's Record Shop, was what our owner was telling us about. He said he used to come there as a kid, or go there as a kid, and that's where they get like their model planes and things that they would build. The little, the little models used. I don't know if they still make those, but yeah, the little plastic models. You get the glue and all that. Yeah. So it's kind of like the record store / hobby shop. It's just been kind of, odds and ends over the years. And most recently, there's plaques out front that kind of tell you what the buildings were over the years, or the building, and then when it got split. But after the 60s, the Historical Society just didn't put in here what was here. So, and there's not a lot of pictures that I've been able to find after the 50s and 60s. So I don't know what it was in the 70s and 80s. I have no idea what was in this building. But I know in the 2000s, our building owner, a gentleman named Barry Rice, he purchased the building and basically renovated it, and they put in an Italian restaurant that had a glass blowing studio in it. Kind of an interesting...
Right where we're sitting.
Yeah, right where
the glass blowing was. Yeah.
So these double doors out here were open. They'd open those up so people could kind of stand and watch. And on the other side, in the back area, was all restaurant. There was a kitchen back there when we took over, and we've done extensive renovation. But as you can see, we've kept the original look. In fact, this wall, and I was just noticing this last night, I don't know why I never noticed this, but if you look at this wall and you look at the brick up above the wood up there, right below the ceiling, see how dirty that brick is and how clean this brick is? There's a reason for that. This brick was painted. Someone painted over that old patina, beautiful brick, and we got it off with glass bead blasting. We had a company come out that was able to take that off without damaging the brick and the mortar. So we brought that. I was just looking at this thinking that is what the brick probably looked like, or close to it, when it was first built. Prior to it being painted, it looked like that up there, I'm sure. It's just, you can see the huge difference. So anyway, this is making for a great podcast because people can't see what I'm pointing at.
No, they'll see
Imagine clean brick.
Imagine dirty brick with clean brick below it. Anyway, so we wanted to make sure that this building, the history of the building, and the actual appearance of the old building didn't get lost. And we've embraced it and actually, I think, did an amazing job making it look super cool and modern, but still have that old building look to it. Yeah. The wood roof ceiling up there is like all, imagine a wood ceiling for the listeners. As far as we know, most of that wood is original to the building. There's probably some stuff that's been replaced, but a lot of people think we had it refinished. It's all just the way it looked. Yep. So we really didn't do a whole lot to anything other than just get the brick cleaned up. So anyway, the owner of the building they had one of those really ugly, like wood shake shingle storefronts over the top of the windows out front, like they do down the block here. But he tore that all off and put a new awning up and made it look like the original building, which is super cool. So it's got a great look outside, a great look inside. We did have to cut up a lot of concrete to pour our brew floor, but that was the biggest modification we made to the building. So anyway, yeah.
Oh. So earlier you mentioned Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and one of the questions we ask everybody that comes on the show is if you remember your first craft beer and the epiphany beer that made you give up the big brands.
Mine was Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. That's what my dad drank, and I turned 21, and I was drinking crappy beer. When I would go out with friends and stuff, I didn't know any better, and went home one night, and my dad was like, "Here, drink one of these," and it was like, "What is this?" So big jumping off point because it's that was 20 years ago. That's a hoppy beer. So anyway, that was mine.
I had imports for a long time, and so I really kind of separate that off as that was that first jump into drinking something other than the Bud Miller Coors, but drank Beck's Dark or St. Pauli Girl Dark. I had those for a long time, but then when you started seeing craft beer showing up in the liquor store, I'm glad you asked that question because I had that opportunity this week. I was down in Austin, and the first real craft beer that I had was Celis Raspberry, and I got that brewery has gone through its history and been recycled and is now open again down there. And I showed up at an HEB just as we were coming into town, and we were loading up on groceries and everything, and I spotted Celis Raspberry there at the store, and I snatched that up as fast as I could and could not wait to find out if that beer was just as good as I remembered, or if my taste buds, or the fact that it was new and something different, if that was kind of a different beer at that time. I got to sit back, crack that first can, and I fell in love with that beer again, and thought that was totally cool to come full circle like that and be able to enjoy that beer just as much now as I did 20 years ago and see it back on the shelf. So yeah, that was one of my real first craft beers that I got excited about and that got me into overdrive of enjoying, craft beer and seeing that there's something more than, the light American lager that when everybody tells us is beer. So yeah, that was a pretty cool moment to have this past week, enjoying that beer again. I think it may have been exactly a week ago today. So
that's awesome.
I can't even pinpoint my first one. My father had an extensive beer can collection when I was a kid, and I'm talking 7th or 8th grade. And he said, "You're going to inherit this collection someday." So I tasted every beer, and we lived on the East Coast at the time. So the game changer, I guess, for me was Avery Maharaja. Once I had that beer, there was no going back. It was amazing. I need to try another one of those things.
Yeah.
And Sierra Nevada Bigfoot. Loved that beer.
Oh,
right on.
You remember that one?
Yeah. She got mad about something one night and chugged a Bigfoot. Chugged it.
Okay.
Out of the bottle. Chugged it.
There's no telling what I was mad about. 5 teenagers.
Yeah. No. It was justified, but she chugged a full bottle of Bigfoot.
Oh, man.
It was amazing. I watched that and I was just like, now I know why I married her.
Reminiscent of the prairie bomb chugs that were going on a couple of years ago on some of the Facebook groups.
Are you kidding me?
Sometimes you just need
Oh
to
yeah,
do
back when
that.
it was really hard to find prairie bomb. People would have the chug video. That's kind of where
the
that
whale chug.
Yeah,
right?
the whale chug.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I remember the whale days. Giving that up.
I got my green wax. I'm gonna pop that now and chug it down.
Yeah, that reminds me.
We still have some.
I got a batch 1 bomb.
Do you?
Still sitting in the house.
Yeah.
I might bring it up here tomorrow and have a little celebratory.
We'll go down that rabbit hole.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the brewery size, barrel capacity, and distribution plans.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So we're 10-barrel brewery. We've got, what do we have? 80-barrel cellar space. So we've got 2 20-barrel fermenters, 4 10-barrel fermenters. The reason we did the 20s is because we had a feeling we might need to ramp up production on a few beers to bigger batch sizes pretty quick. And we actually, I'm starting to think we should have just bought all 20s. I'm starting to look at those 10-barrel fermenters thinking those aren't big enough. So, the 10-barrel brew house is from Alpha Brewing Operations out of Lincoln, Nebraska. A lot of the Oklahoma City breweries are using them. I think Stone Cloud was the first, and they raved about them, and everyone started looking into Alpha, and they've got great prices. They've got amazing service, especially after the sale.
Absolutely.
Those guys, they were just down here this week, and that process pipe, by the way, Jeremy showed up already in the mail. So
Sweet.
These guys came down to weld up a pinhole leak we had in one of our tanks, and measured some stuff for another fitting. Anyway, they welded it up, sent it down, and they've just been awesome. So, we've had great luck with them. The plans for distribution is we're kind of unique. We're if not the first, we're one of the first breweries in Oklahoma that's looking to do self-distribution right off the bat. So, most of all the other breweries had to do like distributors, and some of them, like Angry Scotsman, then switched over to when they got their own place, they did self-distro, and they still are. But our plan is to just grow not organically, but grow slowly, controlled. I say slowly. We'll
Very
see
methodically.
Maybe methodically is a better word, because if it could be fast, we could take off. We don't know. You just don't know, but we're going to at least be in control of what happens. We want to control our destiny. We knew if we went to a distributor, we were going to have to really start cranking beer out in a hurry, and you just lose control of it. It goes to a warehouse. It's not kept cold. You've got salespeople that you don't know what their intentions are that are out there selling your beer. And there's nothing wrong with the distributors, and there's nothing wrong with distributing beer that way. For us, it just didn't make sense with the size of the brew system that we have and the amount of beer we're going to be brewing. It just made a lot of sense to do it ourselves. So that's kind of the plan. We've already kind of saturated Edmond with at least liquor stores. We've got accounts all over the state, though. We've got some in Lawton. I think somebody in Guyman might have even bought our beer, but we've got some accounts up in Tulsa. Right now we've actually hit the pause button on distribution, because everything we packaged can-wise and keg-wise at the end of last month, we're going to sell through all of that. Potentially all the cans may be gone before the next canning run. So we're trying to ramp production up right now. We started using the 20-barrel fermenters already, which is good for us. And like I said, we're going to try to just grow it as controlled as we can.
So one of the downsides of the social distancing going on the festivals have all been canceled. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experiences at the festivals, maybe some stories that you can remember?
Well, I'll be honest, and I know that consumers might not want to hear this, but festivals are tough for breweries. Yeah. They just are. It's a lot of work, and everywhere you go, you donate your beer. You're not getting paid for it. It's basically you chalk it up to marketing. That's what it is. I'm so sorry. So it's a marketing thing, and it's tiring. The festival season is really tiring, and I'm really kind of worried, now that we have our own place. It's like, how are we going to figure out how we're going to manage that? So honestly, for us, it's kind of a blessing in disguise that this has happened right now. I think we're at a bit of an advantage for that. Now, on the flip side of that, we love festivals as well. Even though they are a lot of hard work, we enjoy them. It's a double-edged sword. There's both sides of it. We like them, but we hate them too. So, and I shouldn't say hate. That's not the right word.
You're making friends today.
I know.
First the distributors. Now.
The thing is the getting the beer ready getting it out to the place, setting your tent up, doing all of that is just a lot of work, and then it's hot, and you're sweaty, but then the people show up, and then it's just like, oh, okay, this is all worth it, because that's why we're here, is to share our beer with people. I mean, there's nothing greater for a brewer than to have someone drink your beer and go, oh, this is great. I love it. I mean, even now, of course we're a business and we're trying to sell beer, and that's the whole point of being here, but believe me, I love standing at the bar and seeing people just smiling and drinking our beer, and, you know, I don't put too much stock in Untapped, but I like getting on there periodically and seeing what the vibe feels like and how people are, liking our beer. So, I guess we love festivals. I guess that's the answer.
That's the answer you're supposed to get.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, look,
Took a minute to get there.
yeah, well, I mean,
It happens.
and I don't feel like lying is the right thing. It's a lot of work. Festivals are a lot of hard work. They really are, and it's just. The one up in Muskogee, we were in that hangar or whatever. It was hot when we got there.
Yep.
It was freaking hot, man. You weren't at that.
No, here, give me your shovel. So you quit digging. I'll bail you out.
But it was a great event. We loved it. I mean, we had a great time that night. So it's just like a lot of other things in life.
They're a lot of fun. I think what you're trying to say and convey is that they are more work than what it is just having everybody come to you.
Right.
You're going to them and setting up and breaking down. It's there's a lot involved in that. Everybody that shows up just gets to show up and drink beer. What they don't see is the backside work. Is you've got to brew up for it. If you want to throw something special out there, you've got to plan working that into your schedule and then getting everything together, making sure that your jockey box is clean and sanitized. You don't have any issues with it, and you don't have any faucets that have one seal that has a constant ability to drip the entire evening, and getting all that stuff squared away. There's just so much into it, and then loading out at the end of the night after you've been standing for several hours. It does take a toll on you, especially a couple of guys like Matt and I. Beth's young and runs circles around us, but there's a lot of work for it. But you get that reward in that you get somebody that has never tried your beer before. They know absolutely nothing about you. They step up and they ask about the pretzels.
Pretzels.
No, but really, they do come back for the pretzels.
For the beer, stay for the pretzels.
Yeah, but putting that beer in their hand and they get that 2 ounce first impression of what you're all about. There's some demand on that. You got to step up to that occasion, and they take that first sip after they flat out tell you, "Oh, I don't like IPAs," or whatever it is, and you get them talked into it, and you give them the, "Hey, you can dump it if you don't like it." The spiel of don't drink it just because you feel obligated to, and then they taste it, and you see that look on their face where it clicks. That's pretty kick-ass, and that doesn't get old. That never gets old, and I think for us, having those festivals not going on right now gives us that opportunity to get the doors open and not have that facet to deal with. But I can't wait for that first festival because somebody's going to ask, "Where are you guys located?" And we're going to have an answer for
South
them.
Broadway.
Our tap room's open, and here's our website, and you can come see us on such and such. And, so
bring cash. I'm joking.
I can't wait for that opportunity. That first one back where we get to answer that question the way we want to, instead of, "Well, we're going to be here and we'll eventually get open," and those answers we've had to give for a while. So.
I've really been enjoying the people that have been following us for years from the festivals, and they'll walk in and they'll say, "Oh, I had this beer so many years ago at Zoo Brew or Oklahoma Craft Beer Festival or the Strong Ale Festival, and I've just been waiting to get back in here." It's like, we're finally here, we've built a following, and now you can actually come to our facility, and the beers that you think about that you can't get always. Those fantasy beers, like, I know I have one.
What's that?
That white oak aged High Life that we had that time. Oh my gosh, it's so good,
Cigar
and I've
City.
never had it again.
Yeah. Well, story-wise, I don't know that we have any. I mean, there's too many to tell, really. But I will say that my favorite festival is always OK BioFest. I don't know if you guys have ever been to OK BioFest. It's great.
Yeah.
It's in November.
Yeah.
So it's a crapshoot. You have no idea what the weather's going to be like. One year you'll wear shorts and a t-shirt. The next year you'll wear bundled up with hand warmers in your hoodie underneath your coat.
Stealing a space heater.
Yeah, I mean, that was the last one we went to was like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was terribly cold.
Yeah.
It was like 30-something degrees and 20-mile-an-hour winds. So, it's outdoors, but it's inside the ballpark down here at the. But anyway, I love that event.
Yeah.
Zoo Brew is always a highlight of the year.
Yeah.
Zoo Brew is a big one.
It's a cool venue.
Yeah, it's a really cool venue. I don't know that we have any really funny stories or from most of the stuff that happens at these festivals you really can't repeat. I mean, there's, there's a lot of stuff
I
we
like
can't
Tops for Hope has always been a good festival.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is a good one. That's up in Bartlesville.
They do
at the airport.
They do a unique thing where everybody gets bottle caps, and then they go around and drop bottle caps in the buckets on your table, and you get to vote for your favorite beers.
It's mainly homebrewers. It's really more of a homebrewer showcase,
But still,
there's still some commercial breweries there. Yeah. So, I guess every festival, the one consistent thing, no matter what festival it is what happens at the end. At the end of the festival, about 10 minutes to go, you'll start getting the really, really drunk people walk up. It starts out with, at the beginning of the festivals, people going, what's the lightest beer you got? What do you have that's like Budweiser? Right? So the end of the night, you get the people walking up going, what's the strongest thing you have?
Are you still pouring beer?
Are you still pouring beer? And then if it ends at 8, at 8:05, you'll always have some really hammered person walk up. You guys still serving? Nope, we're not serving anymore. I mean, we shut it off like right at the time. So, but that's every single festival, every single time.
It's never been us.
Never.
And hey, they're having fun. I have
nothing wrong with that.
I mean, we've only had one bad experience, and I wasn't even there to witness it. Jeremy got chewed out by a guy. And we won't talk about the festival because it doesn't really matter where it happened, but some drunk idiot was screaming at Jeremy because he found out we were going to be in Edmond.
He was not a fan of Edmond.
He was not a fan of Edmond.
Yeah, he was very vocal about it. I'll just leave that one alone.
I always enjoyed the last session of the Oklahoma Craft Beer Festival when the glasses start breaking.
Yes.
There's so many people in the room, and all you hear is this collective, oh, and there are more and more of them because people have been drinking a lot.
It's almost like GABF.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Smash.
My favorite is when you hear the glass and you hear the ding, 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 and it doesn't break. And everyone goes, oh, like it's a totally different noise that the whole crowd makes.
So another thing we like to ask everybody when they come on is if you've had your holy shit moment where you go, oh, this is a thing and it's working. And
about 10 minutes ago for me.
You mean just in general in life, or like with beer,
No,
or
with the brewery.
The brewery.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it may be this week. I don't know.
I don't know. I think for me, I'm trying to think if that's a good question. Like, what was an aha moment type of thing?
Yeah, just kind of where you go, oh my God, I've got a brewery.
I know when yours was.
You know.
I know when yours was.
When was it? Because I'm trying to remember.
When you taste that first batch of
That's exactly what it was. Yes. So I was, I'm a worrier. I worry about everything to the detriment of my well-being and health most of the time, but it's just who I am. So I worry about everything. Hence the frenzy, right? So we brewed beer at Angry Scotsman, and when I say we brewed it, I mean we went down and we brewed it, and then most of the rest of the work was done by the Angry Scotsman folks. And they did a really great job getting our beer ready for packaging, and we had tremendous shelf life, so we can shout out to those guys for really doing a good job on that stuff. But we didn't really learn exactly all the steps, and we weren't there every time that beer was being prepped or transferred or cold crashed or whatever. We just weren't carbonated or whatever it was. So we had to do all that on our own, and we had Gary Shellman, who was head brewmaster, whatever you want to call it, at Mustang. He's kind of been working with us, and he kind of helped us through it, but a lot of it we just kind of figured it out along the way, and we were getting the beers ready to package, and I remember, you're right, Jeremy, the first time we poured off the AA, because it was the first beer that we brewed, and I remember pouring it off the port to take a sample after we had it carbonated and everything, and it was perfect.
Yeah. It was a big amount of relief for you.
Yeah, I was just like, it was huge relief, and it just, very emotional moment for us, for me at least. But all the beers have turned out just like we wanted to. Knock on wood, So, in our initial canning run, I mean, the canning guys said that it was the best first canning run they've ever done at any brewery. Now, granted, we had some knowledge that some other places might not have had, but still, we nailed all the. I mean, there's more to it. I mean, there was things that we were thinking about at the last minute. Going, wait a minute, what temperature do we have to have this beer at for packaging? So we're like emailing with the canning company, and we got it all figured out. And that's part of the process of being a brewer. I mean, unless you've done it before, you're going to learn as you go. And we made mistakes, and fortunately, none bit us too hard, but. Not
again.
In fact, last night,
man,
don't want to talk about that. We made a huge mistake.
Every time you start bringing something up, something happens. It's like, Matt, dude, man, quit.
No cellar work after 10 p.m.
Yeah, no cellar work after 7 p.m. is what the rule should be. So we were up there late last night doing tank transfer and cleaning stuff. And anyway, that was my moment. I think Jeremy had his a little bit earlier today.
No, there was some reality to set in for sure. But yeah, I think after we got that first canning run in for me, because the tap room was done, everything that we could do had been done, and we got that first full cycle done. It was, holy crap, we did it. We now have packaged beer. Putting it in kegs is one thing, and putting it on draft is another. But putting it in cans, you're willingly putting yourself out there with your product and being happy with it. There was just that moment. It was, crap, we did it. Just no longer is this just a gutted building that we're trying to figure out what to do with the air conditioners. You're not dealing with those small little obstacles anymore. You've got a fully functioning brewery that you can put product out there, and that was really that first moment where it just the gravity of it hit me. Then, of course, sitting here a couple minutes ago going, crap, tomorrow's it. Tomorrow's it. Yeah.
What was your moment?
I think that my moment has to be when we got more of our staff in here working. And I was sitting over here in this back corner table, and I looked up, and they're all engaging with people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is happening, and we have great people working for us, making it run smoothly.
Yeah, that was one thing when we hired Jeremy and I and Beth, and we all talked about, like, what are we looking for? And we decided that bar experience really wasn't that big of a deal. We were really looking for soft skills. We were looking for nice people, kind people, people that want to work hard, people that are interested in beer, people that are good talking to people, rapport building, those kind of skill sets. That's what makes a good bartender, in my opinion. I love going someplace where I can sit down at the bar and engage with the staff, and they're interactive and they want to talk to you. That's the best time I have at bars or tap rooms or whatever it is. So that's kind of what the environment we want. So the obstacle with that is getting them up to speed on the beer and making sure they're educated. They all know about beer to a degree, but some more than others. But you can teach that stuff. I mean, you can teach someone what beer is, and we did sensory panels during their training and all that, so they can at least taste everything and kind of get an idea of what's what. But over time, they'll get better at that. I just hope, the only thing I'm worried about, the only thing is that we're going to have upset people because they don't feel our staff is knowledgeable enough about beer. But I think those kinds of people are few and far between. I think if we had a bunch of knowledgeable people that were a-holes to the customers, that would be far worse. So, I think people are going to be understanding. But
we want it to be inviting.
Yeah. Sure. And I think we've empowered our people that if you can't answer a question, come talk to us. We will make sure that your question is answered and that the guest in our facility has their question answered.
Makes sense.
Awesome. Anybody else? Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, hey, come out to Frenzy Brewing Company. It's a pretty kick-ass tap room. Kick-ass tap room. Our bar, for those that come in here, I think they're going to love it. It's gigantic. With lots of space, lots of taps. Don't have a ton of beer yet. We're around 10 beers right now, but we're going to keep adding to that. So, just come out and see us, and we'd love to pour you a beer.
I like that we're family friendly.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
You can bring your kids. We have sodas, water, games, so that it's a family environment.
And we forgot one of the most important things about this tap room. We don't serve food here, other than some crackers and potentially some pretzels later on. But there's no promises for the pretzels. But I will say we are surrounded by 10 restaurants. somewhere in that range. The rail yard's right behind us. They've got like 5 or 6. There's the Mule right across the street. Around the corner, restaurant next door. We've got Othello's just 5 businesses down. Sunnyside Diner a block up. So bring your food. Or when you get here and have a few beers, you get hungry, go have a pick it up, bring it back over. We're already starting to see people do that. They'll stop in and get a beer and find out, oh, we can eat here. They'll run over to the rail yard, grab food there, and bring it back. So bring it in, whatever you want. You can bring in a sack lunch. We don't care. Just come on in, have, enjoy the space. Bring your food, bring your kids, have a good time.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having us out and being on the show today.
Yeah,
That's the peach. Quit your peaching.
Oh,
we were
yes,
talking
that's
about it.
awesome.
I tell you what to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And congrats on the opening tomorrow. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
That guy said, don't let the door hit in the vagina on the way out. That was hilarious.
Good idea.
That's going to do it for another episode of Pub Talk. Thanks again to everybody at Frenzy Brewing Company for having us out today and doing the show. Make sure to check them out for their grand opening week. And whenever you're in the Edmond area, you can check them out on all the social media and their website, frenzybrewing.com. If you're interested in learning more about Frenzy Brewing Company through the podcast, make sure to check out the other 2 episodes that we've done with Frenzy. We did an episode back in May of last year, episode 224, and also our Barktoberfest episode 239 has Frenzy on. Make sure you give us a follow on social media at Pub Talk Podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app or YouTube so you never miss an episode. And as always, never forget there's nothing in life too big or hard. You can't handle it over a few beers with your good friends. Until next time, just chill till the next episode.